Many of the stories that occur in the Odyssey are variants of the same basic theme. We've already seen the connections between the Lotus Eaters and the Sirens. The story of Calypso also bears similarities to these narratives. Like the victims of the Lotus Eaters and the Sirens, Odysseus is said to be languishing away on Calypso's island. All of his physical needs are met, but something's missing. He's not fulfilling his potential or being who he's meant to be. He's no meaningful occupation and no purpose. He has no community or social status. Why is this such an important recurring theme in the work? What does it tell us about the interests and concerns of the author or authors? The goal is to point out a conception of human nature. These stories show what a fully human life amounts to. The picture of life that's presented in the case of the Lotus Eaters, the victims of the Sirens, and even Odysseus on the island of Calypso is not a truly human one. Human life involves meaningful tasks as well as community. This conception of human life is also contrasted to that of the Cyclops, the life of an animal in nature. This is made even more poignant with the story of Circe, who turns Odysseus's men into pigs. Human life is higher than the life of animals, and civilization, the human sphere, is higher than nature. All of these stories lead to the conclusion in one way or another. The Greeks' understanding of what it was to be a human being and what human culture and civilization amounted to can also be seen in the figure of Odysseus himself. When he's gone from Ithaca, he loses his own identity. He is, so to speak, no longer the acting king of Ithaca, the acting son of Laertes, the acting father of Telemachus, or the acting husband of Penelope. There are threats to all these key elements which define his self-identity. In the course of his travels, he is step by step stripped of who he is. He loses his property, his boats, his men. The ruse of calling himself nobody also symbolizes his loss of identity. When he finally arrives among the Phaeacians, he has hit rock bottom, naked, alone, with nothing left of his possessions. He has been reduced to the situation of an animal or an object of nature. Today, we would say he has the status of a refugee. From this point on in the narrative, he must begin slowly to regain his identity and status. At first, he's given clothes by the Phaeacians. Then his possessions are, in a sense, restored when the Phaeacians send him on his way with gifts and great riches beyond what he had in booty from Troy. When he arrives in Ithaca, he must reestablish his relations, first with his old servants, Eumaeus the swineherd and Philoetius the cowherd, then with his son Telemachus, then with his father Laertes, and finally with his wife Penelope. At each step, he must work to regain his relationships and identity. Even his wife must be convinced that he's really Odysseus before she grants him his old position back. Thus, the story shows all of the numerous elements involved in leading a fully human life according to the Greek model. It shows how our self-identity, and indeed our fulfillment, is necessarily bound up with our relations to other people. Contrast this to the isolation of the Cyclops or Circe on her island. To be fully human, we need to have a range of different human relationships with family, friends, and fellow citizens. In each of these relations, we play a different role that helps us become who we are. This is the point of the English poet John Donne in the famous Meditation 17 of his Devotions upon Emergent Occasions, which begins, quote, "No man is an island." As human beings, we are who we are in our relations to other human beings. In this country, we celebrate self-sufficiency and individual achievement, and this is of course important. But Donne enjoins us to remember that whatever we manage to achieve on our own has been prepared by a great many people who have helped us in the past. Our parents, our friends, our colleagues, even strangers. All of these people have helped me to become who I am and have given me the opportunity to use my abilities to better myself and have success. To act in the world at all, I rely every day on other people, most of whom I don't even know. I'm interconnected with them in various ways and can do little without them. So, while I can take credit for some of my achievements, I should not lose sight of the much broader context in which my own activity takes place. Donne's poem ends as follows. any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never sin to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. While we of course feel deeply the death of a loved one, the death of everyone impacts who I am. So when one hears the bell of the church ringing for a funeral, there's no need to ask, in effect, who has died, that is, for whom the bell tolls, since the loss of any human being is a loss for me personally. In a sense, it can be said that Odysseus has come back from the dead, which he does figuratively by returning from the underworld. He comes back from being an anonymous stranger in the land of the Phaeacians to being who he truly is, a friend, a father, a husband, and a king. He becomes fully human again.